Elevate. No one really knows for sure. Elevate, Eladibre, Elohim, Chaim, but the season is over. There's that. 15th of the year, 57 said. So, 3761 creation, Adam and Eve, Chava, creation of the world, birth of Adam. 3760 creation of the world, 31 creation of the world, birth of Adam and Eve, Chava. 3631 137 son of Adam was born. 3526 235 Enosh son of Seth was born. 3436 325 Kenan son of Enosh was born. 3366 395 Mahalalel son of Kenan was born. Berkatadana Elohim Ephraim Sheker Shana Ben Metzataf Tzivana Al Sefirat HaOmer. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the counting of the Omer. Today is 31 days, which is 4 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. Do it again. Remember. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the counting of the Omer. Today is 31 days, which is 4 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. May the merciful one restore unto us the service of the Beit HaMikdash to its place, speedily on days and nights. May the merciful one restore unto us the service of the Beit HaMikdash to its place, speedily on our days. Amen. Selah. 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 Are you done? Which we've been doing this bitch 127 days. Coffee and Kabbalah calling coffee. This is athleticism, son. What's our drink? What's this motherfucker jib jabbing that I'm on?
I'm Dr. Justin Sledge, and welcome to Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history, philosophy, and religion. One of the most difficult aspects in starting to study Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah is getting a handle on just how those ideas developed over time. It's tempting to think that, for instance, Kabbalah has just always existed in the form that we have it, or that Kabbalah is just one thing at all. Of course, neither of these positions is really tenable. Such notions developed greatly through the ages and are still developing. And there are now, and there have always been, numerous mutually exclusive schools of Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. This class is meant to serve an introduction to Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah from the point of view of its incredibly complex development from the prophets of ancient Israel and to the rise of modern Hasidism in the 18th century. Of course, this series isn't meant to be exhaustive by any means, but only should serve as a springboard for deeper study and reflection, and hopefully it will also enable you to situate developments in Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah in their historical and cultural context, and hopefully embolden you to dive into the primary texts, which are admittedly as sublime as they are obscure. Let me express my gratitude to Congregation Tehillah for allowing me to use these lectures to reach audience here on Esoterica. If you want, you can find the entire series under the playlist Entering the Garden, an Introduction to Jewish Mysticism and Kabbalah. I'll be uploading them over the next few weeks, or if you find these episodes after autumn of 2021 and you want to watch the entire series, you can find them in that playlist. If you find this series on Kabbalah interesting, I'd hope you check out my other content on topics of esotericism and perhaps consider supporting the production of free academic and scholarly topics in occultism, hermetic philosophy by joining my Patreon or perhaps with a one-time donation. You can find those links below, and I really appreciate your consideration. Now, let's enter the garden of Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. Folks, so let's do some recap and let's get into the Zohar. So as we talked about last time, Kabbalah, the technical Kabbalah, the Kabbalah proper really begins to exist in southern France and Spain in the early 13th century. Now, it's really important to note that it's not a whole cloth, right? That's the whole point of this class, that we've been tracing how Jewish mysticism has developed in the world of Palestine, in the world of Babylonia, in the world of Jewish magic in Egypt. And we've been tracing how that's being slowly moving into the European context. And it's in that beginning in the early 13th century, maybe the that Kabbalah begins to exist as such. I don't want to say the issues, but some of the more important driving issues are one, a response against the philosophy of Maimonides. Right? We like to claim Maimonides, especially as sort of a beacon of enlightenment. But Maimonides, as I pointed out last time, was incredibly polarizing. Maimonides was not universally accepted by many Jews. There were many Jews that hated him and literally turned his books over to the Dominicans to have them burned. Of course, that was a pretty bad idea because when the Dominicans were like, "Hey, you have these heretical books. You want to burn them? Can we burn some more books?" And of course, they ended up famously burning the Talmud. So be careful who you get to burn your books. In general, my advice to you is don't let anyone burn your books. Hold your enemies close and don't let them burn your books. At any rate, so we have this idea in Maimonides of this sort of rational, hyper, metaphorical understanding of everything from angels to the body of God. And of course, the mystics were very interested in the body of God, the actual body of God that you could measure in the Persian Parasang unit, and they were very interested in the idea that you could travel to go into the realm of God and sit on God's throne and maybe even be transformed into an angel. And Maimonides thought that this was just a complete nightmare of idolatry and paganism. And so he really tried to get rid of this. And so in some ways, the Kabbalah is a response against Maimonides. I think the second thing that's really driving the rise of Kabbalah is what sometimes I call the gap problem. And this gap problem really comes from the inheritance of Neoplatonic philosophy. Now, I know, again, I want to drive this point home, but I know that many of us have been raised with the idea that mysticism and philosophism and mysticism, logic and mysticism cannot stay together. They cannot live in the same roof and they can't be in the same bed. Well, the Middle Ages does not give a damn about what you think about those things. The Middle Ages is a mixed up, interesting, different place than what you ever imagined. And the truth of the matter is, philosophy and mysticism, logic and religion have remained very close bedfellows for a long time. And the fact that we post-Enlightenment, post-Haskalah Jews want to drive a hard wedge between them says more about what we need in our desires, our perversions maybe, than it does about what philosophically is rigorous and what historical people actually did. And so part of what's going to happen is that it's not that the Kabbalists are going to reject philosophy, it's that they're going to marshal a different kind of philosophy to solve philosophical problems. Now, their philosophy is going to look a lot different than the way we do philosophy now, but that doesn't mean it's not philosophy last time. The big problem they're trying to figure out is how to bridge the gap between the infinite transcendence of God and the immanent reality of God. And what's going to emerge in their solution, we're going to see this in a big way tonight, beginning in our analysis and start, is they're going to try to have their cake and eat it too. Because that's what every philosopher does, right? Read the first line of the Logic of Hegel, right? Nothingness plus being equals becoming. There we go, right? Get your cake and eat it too, right? You get nothing, and you get being, and you get becoming. There we go. And we roll on out with becoming. So, philosophers are always trying to have their cake and eat it too. And so, it's not surprising the Kabbalists are going to do the same thing. And their solution, just to be very brief right here, is going to be basically three parts. They're going to maintain the transcendence of God with the concept of Ein Sof, infinite, we'll get to that tonight. They're going to bridge the gap between the infinite distance of God and Ein Sof to our reality with the Sephirot, right? We'll get to them tonight too, right? And then they're going to talk about how God is immanent to our world, right? God is immanent. God is it. I love the line in the Quran, actually, which is not part of the obviously Jewish mysticism, but I think it's the most beautiful line of the Quran, is that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. Right? I love that image, right? Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. And this image is deeply true of the Zohar as well, that the immanent world of God, the Shekinah, the feminine world, is as close to you as your bride. Right? Now, again, this is a bunch of dudes writing dude stuff in dude times. And so, who are they going to talk about who's really close to them? Their bride, right? The woman they're taking to bed, or sometimes the dude, they're also taking to bed, right? You can see there's a lot of homoeroticism that we're to see also, of course, in the Zohar as well. And so, what's going on here, right, is that they're trying to explain also the experience of immanence, and that's going to be the Shekinah, the indwelling of God in God's feminine form. Now, some of the other really driving concerns here are going to be sort of the primordial world prior to the creation of this world, the origin of evil. The Zohar is going to be absolutely interested in evil and demons all the time in the Zohar. They're going to be interested in trying to reread scripture to kind of discover these ideas that they're mining, right? So what you get is these Kabbalists are coming with these ideas, and so what do? They go to scripture and then mine them out, right? It's not like they go to read scripture and then find this stuff. Now, you talk to a Kabbalist and they'll tell you that's what they do. I think us other scholars say they come up with the ideas and they go to scripture and they mine them out. So we have very innovative hermeneutical ideas they're going to develop in all of this form of Kabbalah, but also a radical reinterpretation of Jewish law. And this is the idea of Ta'amei HaMitzvot. And Ta'amei HaMitzvot is explaining the mitzvot, right? Why do we do the things that we do? Why do we do tefillin? Why do we keep Shabbat? Why do we not eat this? Why do we not do shatnez? Why do we don't allow linen and wool to be knitting together? Why do we not do that? Well, what Kabbalah is going to show is not only are practical reasons for this, right? There are metaphysical, mystical, occult reasons for this. That's going to be a big part of the Kabbalah as well. Well, folks, we've arrived. We are at the gates of the Sefer Zohar, and I will say that Sefer Zohar is an incredibly difficult, incredibly intimidating text. I'll speak for myself. It's intimidating to me. It is a text that I have a very tortured relationship with, just because it's so difficult to get into. I've never experienced a text that is this intimidating. So as I work through these next couple of lectures, and it will be 2 lectures on the Zohar, just because no one can do service to the Zohar in 2 lectures, much less an even year or a lifetime of studying the Sefer Zohar. It's that monumental. And I just want to illustrate this with a visual example of why we're going to do at least 2 sections on the Zohar, and why I would love to come back and do an entire class on the Zohar. So to get an idea of this, I'm going to hold up just a copy of this right here, this little sliver of text that you see here. This is the longest Kabbalistic text prior to the composition of the Zohar. This is a Sefer Bahir, right? So this is a Sefer Bahir in Hebrew, right? So this is the Sefer Bahir in Hebrew. And what you're seeing here, right, is this is the longest Kabbalistic text prior to the Zohar, right? Now, let's zoom out a little bit. Move my mic. This is a Zohar, right? This is the volumes of the Zohar. The standard Zohar, just the standard Zohar with no additions whatsoever, right, which is still not considered the entire Zohar, is still all of this. So this is a standard academic Zohar with no commentary. No commentary. That's 3 substantial volumes in the standard edition of the Zohar. So I just want you to understand at some level what we're dealing with. We're dealing with several orders, for the math folks out there, of growth in Jewish mysticism. When I say several orders of magnitude, I'm talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of words. So when I say that the Zohar is it's like a giant jump in terms of production. And so what I want to make very clear is, if we were to add up every single text we've talked about so far in this class, right, with the exception of the Babylonian Talmud, you could add everything up, multiply it by 10, and we would still not have the contents of the Zohar. It's that substantial. So what I want to drive home tonight is that if the case I'm doing 2 lectures on the Zohar, which I'm extending the class basically now, the reason I'm doing it is because I can't possibly do justice to the text in 2 lectures, and if I tried to shove everything into one, it would be Chilul Hashem. It'd be a violation of God's dignity to do that. So we're going to spread it out over the course of 2 lectures now, and we'll start with this text. So what is it? The first thing I want to do is do a little groundbreaking. Where are we? When does this text appear? And the answer is it appears somewhere in Castile in Spain around 1270 of the Common Era. And to give you some idea about when we are, right, some cultural landmarks that you probably know, we're in the time period of the groundbreaking of the Notre Dame Cathedral. The Notre Dame Cathedral, the groundbreaking was 1163 and it was completed just a little bit later in 1345. So we're right in the middle. So if you were to be reading the first sections of the Zohar, you would still see the Notre Dame Cathedral going up. In Baghdad, the most magnificent city in the world in many ways at the time, fell to the Mongols in 1258. The Bayit al-Hikmah was burned, the most important library in the world, right? People forget this. The most important library in the world, and they don't forget this. Islamophobia has denied the right of Muslims to claim the most important library in the world being at the Bayit al-Hikmah in Baghdad, but it falls in 1258. The Bayit al-Hikmah is burned. I would say it's actually a greater tragedy than the burning of the Library of Alexandria in many ways. Also, if you want to think about it more specifically, the Sefer Zohar is composed almost at the same time that Thomas Aquinas is composing his Summa Theologica. Right? So Thomas was composing his Summa Theologica, which is almost the same size in many ways as the Sefer Zohar. And he's composing that from about 1262 to 1263. The Zohar is actually being composed about a decade later. But it boggles my mind to think that the people that compose the Zohar could have literally walked to one another and chatted over a beer. Right? They could have had wine together. Right? That boggles my mind. Thomas Aquinas composing the Summa Theologica, and the writers of the Sefer Zohar could have made a little bit of a journey and they could have sat down and talked about theology over a couple of glasses of wine. And my God, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall of that conversation. So just to give you again, I think it's sometimes important to get a sense of when we are, right? When we are, and what's being produced at that time. Of course, the Summa Theologica is probably one of the touchstones in Western civilization, philosophically and theologically. So the Sefer Zohar appears. What is this book, right? What is this book? Well, it's largely a travelogue, right? That's what's weird about it. It's a travelogue. It's mostly the travels of a 2nd century sage named Shimon Bar Yochai and his son Eliezer and their companions. And what do? They travel around 2nd century Palestine and they talk. That's what the Sefer Zohar is. It's just a bunch of guys traveling around, chatting about stuff. Now, what do they talk about? We'll get to that. Why Shimon Bar Yochai? Well, already in the rabbinical period, Shimon Bar Yochai is already associated with a couple of extreme things. He's associated with miracles. He's associated with extreme piety. In fact, he was so pious that he emerged from a cave and killed a bunch of people with these judgy laser eyes. He hated the Romans. He was a sort of bulwark against Roman assimilation. And in many ways, some documents around Shimon Bar Yochai have already been composed, making him sort of an apocalyptic figure. So in many ways, he's a perfect person to be this progenitor of a radical new kind of mysticism, because he's already sort of radically mystical and sort of distant from the world, and he doesn't like the Gentiles, which the Zohar is very anti-Gentile, infamously anti-Gentile. So in many ways, he's the perfect fit for the Zohar. The text itself is placed into the 2nd century world of the Galilee, and of course that time is a time of very intense Jewish-Roman strife. And so the text here is also representing a very difficult relationship between Jews and non-Jews, and that situation is going to prove important in just a minute. What do we know about the writer of this? We'll talk more about the author. We know that they know rabbinical literature incredibly well, but not only that, they are incredibly conversant in philosophy. One of the things that's really important to know about the Sefer Zohar is the person who writes this really, really, really knows philosophy, and they really, really know Jewish traditional literature. This text is only possible if you know both. And so one of the things we know about that is they really, really know both. Secondly, the text itself is composed in a strange dialect of Aramaic. It's not Palestinian Aramaic. It's not Babylonian Aramaic. It's Zohar Aramaic. When I say that, it actually contains all kinds of strange, almost idiolectic examples of its own sort of private language, to misquote Wittgenstein. And the obscure, weird dialect of the Aramaic, which composes the Zohar, is going to be something we'll talk about in just a minute. Now, one thing to know about the Zohar is that it's actually not one text. It's not like you can read the Zohar beginning to ending. The Zohar is actually composed of very small, some big, some small, some only 7 pages, some 150 pages. It's a text composed of texts. And what I want to do now is go through some of the texts that compose the Zohar. Because you shouldn't think of the Zohar as one united text. You should think of it as sort of a stitching together of various texts that don't always work together. So the most important section of the Zohar, and largely the biggest section of the Zohar, is the Zohar al-Torah. This is a running midrash, right? From midrash is a kind of creative commentary for folks who study some midrashim. It's a common running commentary on the Torah, with almost all the weight being thrown at Genesis and Exodus. In the after Genesis and Exodus, almost the weight of the commentary drops off, and some parts of the Torah are very thinly covered. So it's not like it's a systematic commentary of the whole Torah. Some parts get a lot of cover, some parts get very little at all. Another part of the text are these groups called the Idrot, right? The Idrot are the two assemblies, and these are texts in which the characters of the Zohar get together and have conversations. One of these two assemblies, the smaller assembly, the Idra Zuta, is a very small gathering of people around the death of Shimon Bar Yochai. So it's in some sense the smaller of the two, but the more important one. And the Idra Rabbah, which is weirdly enough a discussion of all kinds of things, including the commentaries on God's beard. There's a long section about God's beard, and another section called the Sifra Ditzniuta. And this very tiny part has to do with divine anatomy, and many people think this is a very old stratum of the sacred Zohar. It's a very weird part of the Zohar. So we have these Idrot, which are these assemblies of the sages, and we have this other section called the Sifra Ditzniuta, which is, you can see these words are largely in Aramaic, reflecting the names of the sections. And so these sections are very, very unusual, very difficult to understand. I still don't know and half this stuff. It very, but on this, it's just a bunch of guys getting together to talk about stuff, right? There's also an early Sefer Zohar called the Midrash Halam, the hidden Midrash. The hidden Midrash is probably the oldest section of the Sefer Zohar. This section deals with a large degree of things like the nature of the soul, the afterlife, the Messiah. It's sort of like the Zohar learning to be the Zohar. And I often tell people, if you want to study the Zohar for a beginner, if you want some training wheels to study the Zohar, study the Midrash Halam, and then move on to other sections, because it's much more familiar to you if you study some Midrash, but still a very strange section indeed. Other sections of the Zohar that are very important, make sure I'm not getting this on the slide. Yeah, I'm not. Another section of the Zohar that's very important are the subdivisions. There are a couple important literary that are very important. And these literary subsections actually include what is called the Saba, the old man, and the Yanuka, the young child. The old man are in fact related to son and child. These sections, a young child, a wunderkind, and a old man who's just a donkey driver actually schools the companions. The men associated with the Zohar are called the companions, and these companions are going along the road. There's a donkey driver, and the donkey driver shows them that the donkey driver knows more about the hidden world of God than they do. And the Yanuka, though, this wonder kid, also shows that he knows far more about the nature of Torah and the hidden reality of God than they do. And so they sit at the feet of this donkey driver and this child, and they learn all this stuff about the nature of God and the hidden world of the Ein Sof and the Sefirot, like this. So what's important to know about these sections is that the Zohar is not one contiguous book. It's several structural literary texts or fragments edited together into one narrative. The edits are not clear, the edits are not perfect, but they are being edited. If you're interested in that, where get into the more easy section of the Zohar, and then kind of work your Zohar muscles up to get to the really difficult parts. Like this, it's new to challenging many things. It's a collection of very strange documents. For sections of like the original version, which are included in the Zohar. Those are the Zohar, the Rectifications Zohar, and another text called the Rabbi Rothschild, the Faithful Shepherd. These are considered in the Orthodox world to be part of the Zohar. So if you were to go into the Orthodox world read the Zohar, those sections will be considered part of the Zohar. We now think that they're a bit later than the actual composition of the Zohar, but in the Orthodox world, they're considered Zohar par excellence, and no one thinks an eye about them. And those later sections actually do a lot of work of helping make the earlier sections of the Zohar make sense. Now, I know this is to say it just to break it down a little bit clearer. What we in the Zohar is a commentary on the Bible. That's weird. Then we have weirder books where a bunch of second century dudes hang out and talk even more strange things. And we have digressions that are literary units that are contained upon themselves, where they come with a little boy and a donkey driver, and they learn all kinds of secrets of Torah from them. And then we have a lot of miscellaneous stuff. So the thing I want to drive on the Zohar is that it is not one contiguous text. It's a quilt, right? If you've ever seen a quilt, right? Quilts are cool pieces of fabric because they're not one thing. Quilts are lots of things stitched together. And if you zoom in on one part of the quilt, it sounds like you're looking at one. If you zoom out too far, it looks like chaos. Carefully follow how the quilter made it. You can see how the quilt got designed. But again, if you zoom out on the quilt, it just looks like a bunch of crazy things stitched together. If you zoom in too close, it's just things. But zooming out, you can see the structure. The structure of the Zohar is very well understood, and I think the best example of understanding it is something like a mystical quilt. Let's talk about who wrote this thing, right? Who wrote this thing? The earliest appearances of the Zohar occur in the 1290s, but we think that largely it was composed between 1280 and 1286, although probably I think it actually was composed maybe in the 1270s. It seems to emanate largely from the person of Moshe ben Shem Tov of Lyon, who lived in Castile. You see his names there on the screen. We say that because everything seems to point back to him. Everybody who quotes it, he quotes it. The world in which it seems to be emanating from seems to be him. And we do think that Moshe ben Shem Tov of Lyon is probably the author of a big chunk of this text. And we'll talk more about, we can complicate that more in a minute. Now, one of the things I'll point out here is that even in the early days of the Zohar, there was a lot of doubt about who wrote this. Many people thought it was a forgery, right? Many people thought it was a forgery. We'll talk about the Zohar in a minute. So it wasn't like the Zohar was immediately recognized by all Jews as obviously scripture. That took some time. Also, one of the things we should note about it is that let's make a distinction between forgery and pious forgery. Forgery is when you intentionally engage in fraud for your own personal gain. That's forgery, right? When I write a check from, I don't know if I would write a check from Tehia to myself for $10 million, not that check would pass, but if I were to do that, that's clearly forgery. I'm forging my name on a check to get a bunch of money. But if I were to write a letter for dead, right? Pious forgery is not forgery in the benefit of yourself. It's trying to benefit people in the advancement of wisdom, or religious fervor, or religious piety, or spiritual growth. So I want to make a distinction here between forgery, which is meant to only benefit the person doing the forging, and pious forging. Pious forgery, which is there to actually do the benefit of benefiting other people. It's still deception, pious deception. Now, there's lots of examples of this in the past, and I think the Zohar is typically taken to be an example of pious forgery, though there's some evidence to also say that Moshe of Leon was also engaging in mystical practice that may have also been into an altered state of consciousness, and it may be the case that he was also writing the Zohar in an altered state of consciousness. That is to say, he was in a mystical trance or an ecstatic state, and he was closing sections of the Zohar in those ecstatic states. We have some evidence to say that's true too. So, again, people are complicated, folks. People are complicated. Did Moshe Leon probably write some of this stuff? Yeah. Does that make it a forgery? No. Because forgery and pious forgery and mystical altered states of consciousness really make this complicated. Now, what I want to is some arguments made by Sholem. I'm going to go through these really quickly because I don't want to. I think it's important to point this out, but I just don't want to beat this to death. Sholem, who is of course one of the Gaons of Jewish mysticism, he's one of the great pioneers of Jewish mysticism. People forget he was a philologist. He wasn't philology. He was a PhD of Jewish mysticism because nothing existed like that at the time. He was a linguist. And so when he went to study the Zohar, trying to figure out who wrote the Zohar, he approached it from a linguistic angle and a literary angle. And what he found was it wasn't from the 2nd century. It couldn't have been. It couldn't have been. Why? Why do scholars think this now? So a couple of reasons. I'm really gonna go through these. The first is there are grammatical mistakes that no speaker of Aramaic would ever make. They're grammatically weird things. Also, they're grammatically blending of dialects that no person speaking Aramaic would ever make these kind of blendings. It's like you were from Boston and San Francisco at the same time. No one speaks like that, right? And so in the ancient world especially, no one from the Galilee would incorporate weird Babylonian grammatical and dialectical structures. Secondly, there are all kinds of neologisms in the Sefer Zohar that are not found in the Babylonian Talmud, and they seem to be made up. In fact, not just made up, there are very specific sounds that the writer of the Zohar likes, right? The and ta sound. There's something about these the writer likes. Further, there's evidence of medieval constructions, Old Spanish words, and even philosophical ideas that have really emerged only in the Middle Ages, specifically in Arabic philosophy. Now, what's really important about that is Moshe Leon was incredibly well versed in Maimonidean philosophy. So much so that we even have a copy of his manuscript for the Guide to the Perplexed that survives with his notes on it in Moscow. It's in one of the libraries in Moscow. So Moshe Leon, the purported major compositor of the Zohar, was deeply interested in philosophy, so much so that he had a copy of the Guide to the Perplexed by Maimonides written out for him, and he wrote commentary on it. He knows the language of philosophy. He's in fact, in many ways, fighting with Maimonides. And the fact that we know this is he read him very closely and left notes behind. And many of the medieval Aramaic, Arabic, Hebrew words for many of the philosophical technical terms are preserved in the Zohar. Secondly, the writer of the Zohar that we have makes a bunch of weird mistakes. And he makes mistakes that no person living in the Galilee would ever make, right? So there are many cases in the Zohar where they say, I'm going from city A to city B, I'm going east. Except for you couldn't go east to get there. You had to go north to get there, right? Or you're going from place A to point B, and you have to go north to get there, and they go west to get there. There's all kinds of geographic confusions in the text that would never occur for someone who actually lived there. And you're going from Ann Arbor to, I don't know, Traverse City, and you go east to get there. Clearly, this is not a thing that you would do. Secondly, there's all kinds of interesting confusions about relationships. So one of the big things that ends up happening in the Sefer Zohar is that son-in-laws and father-in-laws get switched, right? So that people are married to the wrong people or something. So there are all kinds of familiar relationships that we find in the Babylonian Talmud that just get confused. And no one who knew these people would make that mistake. It's like you would confuse, right? It's not like anyone would confuse my brother-in-law, Micah, for my dad, John. No one's going to do that. And so no one who knows my family would ever do that. And so only someone who doesn't know anything about my family would make a mistake like that. Secondly, the text is it's in Aramaic, right? But we would expect a text of the 2nd century to be written in Aramaic. Every academic text written in the 2nd century is actually written in Mishnaic Hebrew, not in Aramaic. So the language of the Zohar is just anachronistic. And we can expect a 7th century text, a 6th century text written in Aramaic, or a 5th century text written in Palestinian Aramaic, but not a 2nd century one. It's just in the wrong language. Next, well, someone from the outer Jewish world read the Sefer Zohar and did the thing you might do. They were investigative journalists, I guess, and they went to Spain and they were like, let me talk to Moshe de Leon's wife, who seems these manuscripts seem to be coming from, and they asked Moshe de Leon's wife where in the world he got this. He wrote it out of his own head. Wife ratted out. His wife was like, yeah, he rewrote this for money, basically. People were paying him. He wrote this stuff out, and he did this, and he used Shimon Bar Yochai's name to bolster its reputation. So his own wife, after he was dead, said, yeah, there were no ancient manuscripts of this. He basically made this thing up. I think that's one of the more damning pieces of evidence. Further, the linguistic analysis of the Sefer Zohar shows that the only document that resembles the Sefer Zohar are other documents written by Moshe de Leon. In fact, the earliest quotations we have of the Sefer Zohar are from Moshe de Leon, in which Moshe de Leon is trying to make a weird, and he quotes the Zohar to prove him right. Plagiarism, where you write a magical book, and then you use the magical book that you wrote to prove your other weird book correct. I gotta get on that train because that sounds like an amazing thing to be doing. And so we see that happening in some early text by Moshe de Leon. There are no manuscripts of the Sefer Zohar ever found prior to the period in which Moshe taught. Every manuscript we have comes from after him. Now, it could be the case that just no one survived from the 2nd century, but, you know. Now, one argument is, right, no one like Moshe de Leon or anyone else to have ever written something profound as the Zohar. Well, people have. The Prophet Muhammad was illiterate. He was a trader. He was a merchant. And he wrote the Quran. He was illiterate. Well, Muslims take it to be that the reason why the Quran should be believed is because Muhammad could have never written it because he was an illiterate caravan driver. So simple people, including people like Jacob Burma, the famous theosophist who was just a cobbler, wrote some of the most profound theosophical writings in the history of the world. So it doesn't take a super smart person to be a genius. In fact, I would say, in many ways, genius has everything to do with being smart in ways that are completely unconventional to the ways around you. Just because no one around you does what you do doesn't invalidate your genius. It might, in fact, authenticate it. So, the preponderance of evidence, folks, is that Moshe de Leon, at some level, is responsible for the lion's share of the text we now refer to as the Zohar. Now, what I want to say here is that what we don't believe anymore in the scholarly world is that this is a 2nd century text. What we are now dealing with is the larger question of textual analysis is, did Moshe de Leon write the entire thing? And the growing consensus tends to be no. What we think is now going on is that in Castile, around Moshe de Leon, is a circle of people. And that circle of people, like the Harlem Renaissance or the symbolist poets or other kinds of people in history, they're composing a text jointly in which they're all contributing in all kinds of elaborate ways, and they're stitching this thing together as they go. And that's very clear because as we see the Zohar as it's sort of revealed in history, it's not revealed as one book, it's revealed as a bunch of various tractates that ultimately get edited together as the Zohar because they're all unified in terms of theme and philosophical mystical ideas. So scholarship doesn't believe now that Moshe de Leon wrote the whole thing. That's what Sholem believed. Now scholars who are far more competent than I now believe that what we really have here is a kind of project, right? A group authorship project in which there are lots of people writing things, and emotional art seems to be the center of that group project. And again, you can think about in the 20th century, some of the greatest works of philosophy in the 20th century have been authored by groups of people or by co-authorship. I think of Deleuze and Guattari, I think of Sartre and Beauvoir, who didn't technically group authorship, but I think everything that they ever wrote was already imprinted with each other. Beauvoir to Sartre more than people would like to admit. You can think of other kinds of group authorship as well. I will say, though, that the orthodox position about this text remains that it was composed in the 2nd century and it was made public beginning in the 13th. That's the orthodox position. The orthodox position is that this text is from the 2nd century and that it was made public beginning in the 13th century. Modern scholarship, academic scholarship does not accept that position, but that is the official orthodox position. Although, when it was first printed, it was actually first printed because people thought the Messiah was imminent and thought that this printed out because it would help the Messiah come. In fact, the earliest printed edition, the Ramona edition, was printed at the behest of Christians, not of Jews. So it's interesting that even the publication history of this text is very complicated. We'll get to the reception of this in a minute. So, how does this text develop? And again, I'm already 46 minutes into this lecture. This may be a 3-part lecture, folks. So the Sefer Zohar is composed of some core ideas. Let's start with the first. The first is Ein Sof. Ein Sof is the modern Hebrew word that means infinite. It literally means without end. And so to understand this, we need to get into the philosophy a little bit and to understand that what's going on philosophically at this time is what is generally referred to as negative theology. Negative theology is that you cannot say anything positive about God. God is beyond anything you can say about God. So you can't say that God is wise, because any concept you have of wise is always compared to God. You can't say that God is loving, because any concept you have of love is always inadequate when compared to an infinite being. And so the idea is that you can never say anything positive about God. You can only say negative things about God. You can only say that God is beyond wisdom. God is beyond love. You can't say that God is wise, but you can't say that God is foolish. God is not. God is beyond wisdom. And this negative theology allows one to maintain that God is transcendent, but you can still talk about God. Right? By saying that God is beyond wisdom, you can still say that God is wise. God is beyond wisdom as we understand it. But that's an idea that's being incorporated into the Zohar, coming from people like Maimonides and people like Ibn Gabirol, but really it has its origins in the Platonic philosophy of folks like Plotinus and Pseudo-Dionysius, the Christian philosopher. So what's important to note about this, right, is that the starting point of the Zohar is that God is beyond everything you can understand. God is transcendent, utterly transcendent. And so what do we have, right? We have a God in the Zohar that is utterly transcendent. When I mean transcendent, I mean that God is simply beyond anything you can say about God. You can't imagine God. You can't touch God. You can't even make sentences about God that are true unless those sentences are in the negative. God is beyond being. God is not in this room. God is not wise, because any wisdom that you're giving God is beyond all of our wisdom. So this Ein Sof is the positive being beyond being. So that's the first thing you should know about the Zohar. For the Zohar, the originary position of God, as much as God has a position, is that God is beyond anything you can articulate, anything you can say, anything you can think, anything you can worship, anything you can obey, anything you can love, anything that you can refer to at all. This being is the luminous darkness, right? And again, notice that beautiful contradiction. It's a darkness, right? It's the most darkness you can imagine. God is beyond all things, absolutely, infinitely dark. And yet God is luminous. God is a being that shines. And so that's the contradiction, right? God is the lamp, the infinite dark lamp that shines. And this contradiction is going to drive the Zohar, because God is both beyond all being, and yet all beings is a result of God. And we have all these beautiful contradictions that we have in the sacred Zohar to capture this contradictory reality where God is both beyond all predication, and yet everything that can be predicated of anything relies on God. In some sense, this is a God prior to God. So everything you know about God, everything, the Torah, everything, none of that applies to Ein Sof. Ein Sof is beyond all that. Nothing you know about God applies to Ein Sof. Ein Sof is beyond all things that you could possibly think or predicate or imagine. Now, clearly that didn't happen forever, right? Because we're here, I'm here, you're here, Duff is here, Schmutz on my floor, Clean is here, right? So, what happened? Well, we don't know. In the infinite abyss of the darkness of God, something stirred, something moved, something agitated. There was an allergy where God sneezed out, or crapped out, or ejaculated out. And I'm not kidding, ejaculated. The Zohar loves the image of God moving with God's self and light spewing out of Yesod, God's phallus. There's this idea of our birth, God birthing the world. The Zohar is perfectly comfortable with both of these images. Sort of a masturbatory or self-impregnation, and out of that emerges being. The Zohar moves rapidly between these images. Now, one of the great mysteries of the Zohar is why? Why did God flow out of God? And the answer seems to be found, at least at some level, in Neoplatonic literature. And it seems like in the Neoplatonic literature that the infinite darkness, the infinite removal of the Godhead is somehow positively charged. And that positively charged infinite darkness, for whatever reason, flows out of itself, right? It flows out of itself. And that flowing out of itself is something that you can't help but do, right? Either it needing or it's so big that its nothingness must become a something. It's like a saucer of milk being put all over. It just has to go somewhere. And so what ends up happening is, in this infinite darkness there of Ein Sof, something flows out. And this outward flow in the Neoplatonic philosophy, it sort of flows out into one thing, flows out into another, and these discrete things have a relationship back to the thing it flowed out of. And that flowing out eventually reaches a terminus, and then it flows back like a tide, right? So there's procession in the Neoplatonic worldview, and there's recession back into the world of the infinite darkness of the divine. And we see this in scholars like Plotinus, we see it in Rothschild, we see it in Orphic philosophers. But the idea here is there's an infinite negation, and from that negation is negated, and then out flows positivity, right? So we see that, right, in some things like the early Neoplatonic Pythagoreans, right? We're all in the Pythagorean philosophy, we have unity beyond all understanding, and then there's an interior duality, and then there's a kind of interior harmonics that emerges from that. So we get being emerging into difference. We have the one becoming the many. We see this in the Neoplatonic world, and of course here are some of the schemata you can see that are very famous from the world of Proclus, the classical German philosopher, and also here from Orpheus, where you can see from the one, right, from the ineffable on this side, there is a flowing out of being. If you've ever seen images of the Sephiroth, this looks really should look really familiar to you, right? And these images come from Greek philosophy, but we're going to see something very similar emerge in Jewish philosophy as well. So, now, as I mentioned last time, the earliest mentions of these kinds of things that flow out of God are the Sphirot. And the Sefirot, right, are these earliest emanations of God. Now, when I say emanations of God, what I want you to hear is something like, imagine that out of a being flows one more discrete being, right? So imagine that out of my inner consciousness emerges the consciousness of myself. The consciousness of myself is distinct from myself. And so we can talk about my consciousness and the fact that I'm conscious of myself as being two distinct things, right? Have you like been in pain, right? Where you're like, my knee is hurting, and then yet your awareness of your knee is hurting is a different thing, right? Sometimes we talk about pain and suffering. Pain is the feeling in your knee. It's you reflecting on the fact that your knee hurts. Folks ever had like a meta headache, where like your head's hurting, and you're like, now I'm aware my head is hurting, and I'm thinking about my head hurting, right? Notice how those are distinct things, right? They're just things in your mind, but they're distinct things in the mind. That distinction between the pain and the thinking about the pain, the suffering, that's something like a hypostasis, to use a Greek term. That's an incarnation where the pain and the thinking about the pain are two distinct things. Well, God kind of works like that in Judaism, where we get all kinds of aspects of God, the Sefirot, and these Sefirot are aspects of God contemplating God's totality interior to that totality. Now that sounds weird, but think about yourself. Think about your mind. Your mind is emotions, intellect, right? Judgment. You judge things to be true or false, right? Memory, right? You think about memory, its experience of the world. Our minds, we often think of our minds as having parts, right? There are parts of our mind doing different tasks. Well, imagine the Sphirot as something like aspects of God, faculties of God, doing different parts that compose what God is. Just like your memory is different than your logical part, just like your logical part is different than your emotional part, just like your emotional part is different than your judgment part, where you judge things to be true or false. Those are all part of your mind, but they're distinct. They're all part of one mind. So the Sphirot are in many ways like that. Now, of course, as we can remember back from a couple times ago, these ideas first appear in the Sefer Yetzirah, and in the Sefer Yetzirah divides them into 10 entities. But notice that they are not parts of God yet. They're not emanations of God, but they will become emanations of God, remember, in the Sefer HaVahir. Now, what we get here, right, is that what ends up happening is that these 10 numerical ideas that come from Sefer Yetzirah are going to pass into a new stage, right? So the first stage of the Sephirot are the numerical ideas of the Sephirot, right? In the first stage, the Sephirot are combined with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. God creates the world that way. In the second stage, the Sefer Bahir is going to link them with the various aspects of God. They are the parts of God that flow out of the inner recess of Ein Sof, the unknowable part of God, and those 10 Sephirot are going to become the parts of God that we know, right? That we can have some intellectual or mystical communion with. So that's the second part, right? And the Sphirot, you can imagine, the second part is kind of like a bridge. They build the bridge between the infinite transcendence of God to us. Right? So one metaphor, maybe a metaphor that might help you to understand what the Sephirot are, is they're like a ladder, right? With every single rung of the ladder, 10 rungs of the ladder, reaching back up to Ein Sof. So think about the Sephirot as a ladder reaching down from the infinite recesses of Ein Sof, the infinite recesses of the no-thingness of God to the thingness that we are. Because we have to have a bridge between finite thingness I am. I'm just a finite thing, just some dude here, right? And God is infinite transcendence. We have to have something to bridge the gap. What bridges the gap? The Sephirot. The Sephirot are the rungs of the ladder, reaching down metaphysically, ontologically, to us. Now, what ends up happening, right, is that you have to define what those rungs are, right? We get the idea that there are 10 of them in the Sefer Yetzirah. We get some Zohar in the Sefer Bahir, and it's in the Sefer Zohar that they become clearly systematized, and we now know a bit about them. And what the Sefer Zohar argues is that the Sephirot are the primordial body of the universe. They're like the universe before we get to the physical universe. They're like the metaphysical part of the universe, right? So before there is a physical universe, there is the metaphysical universe. And the Sephirot exist in that metaphysical universe. They are the primeval body of human beings, the primeval body of Adam, the Adam Kadmon, which we'll talk about a little bit later, kind of like the being of the being of reality prior to physical reality. Now, where the rung of the ladder idea begins to break down is that in the sacred Zohar, the Sephirot are not they're not concrete. You can think about the in many ways, the Sefer Zohar is talking about these various parts of God, right? And we'll talk about some of these parts of God next time, right? God's judgment, God's mercy, God's intelligence, God's wisdom, and God's beauty, and God's endurance. We'll talk about some of these starting next time. These Sefirot are aspects of God, but these aspects of God, just like the aspects of your mind, right? The logical part of your mind, the memory part of your mind, the emotional part of your mind, the judgment part of your mind. It's not like those parts are always clearly distinguished, right? They interact with each other. They kind of move around, right? Memory gets called up, and then memory gets informed by logic. Logic sort of tries to rule over emotion, but sometimes emotion rules over logic. And sometimes your logic is very powerful and is able to overcome your temper problem. And sometimes your temper problem is able to overcome your logic. Well, you're made in the image of God. And unsurprisingly, because those things are true of you, they're true of God too. The inner world of the divine, the inner world of the Sefirot, these aspects of God, are also in a kind of dynamism. They're all interacting with each other. They're always moving around. And this is a I know why don't you have this image of the Sefirot on the screen, right? The classic image where there's one sphere at the top, Keter, and we to disrupt that image of the Sefirot, of the attributes of God, of the qualities of God, the 10 qualities of God, as locked into those sequences. Because in the sequence you've seen, right, the sequence of the Tree of Life, we'll talk about that more next time. The Tree of Life sequence you've seen is the perfectly balanced version, which never occurs. The Sefirot in these Zohar are always moving, shaking, dancing, crying, screaming, judging, contemplating, intellectuating, being beautiful and fabulous, engaging in prophecy, gloating over the future of the coming of the Messiah. None of them are ever in one place. They're moving and gestating and dancing and being always in a relationship that's moving and dynamic. So the thing I want to notice here about the Sefirot, the 10 Sefirot, and the thing I want to drive home tonight is that image that you probably have of the Sefirot. Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Malchut. You need to get rid of that image if you want to understand this Sacred Zohar. Because that image is like, it's like looking at a map, right? And trying to figure out where you want to go, right? Where you want to go is like this. And then where you want to go another day is like this. And where you want to go another day is like this. Right? The Sefirot and the Zohar are not fixed things. Where the divine is always moving. So attached to all the different Sefirot are an incredibly rich, complicated system of names, of colors, of numbers, of names of gods, of locations, of body parts, of emotions, of partner Sefirot, of various patriarchs and matriarchs found in the Hebrew Bible. And every time you see them, they're changing. Right? So when you read the Zohar, you might see that one patriarch is named and that's associated with one specific sefirah, right? Or a specific region of the body, or a specific color. And what ends up happening is these things are dynamic. There's a dynamism. And so part of how to read the Zohar is how to decode this stuff. Take a long time to figure out. Now, what is the relationship between Ein Sof and the Sefirot? Well, it's complicated, right? You have to resort to metaphors, right? We're dealing in the world of poetry and art. The metaphors are things like the white light breaking into a spectrum, or one candle lighting another one, right? So the infinite dark candle that you can never see of Ein Sof reaches out into being, right? From non-being, from trans-being, from ultra-being, and it lights the light of Keter. And Keter is a light that burns so bright you can't even see it. So it's a light, but it's a light so bright you can't see it. But it lights another light, Chokhmah. And that light is so bright that you can't look at it, but you know it's a light. And that light lights Binah. That's again so bright, right? But you can kind of through your fingers and see it. So what we have here is, again, a metaphor of lights lighting light. Other kinds of things are fountains. Right, so you have the very tip fountain, right, the very top of the fountain that sprays just a tiny bit of water that you can hardly see, right? But eventually it fills the first bowl, and the first bowl fills the second, and the second, and the second, and the second, right? You get all 10. But that first spigot of water, you can't even see it. But eventually it fills the first bowl, right? And so what we have here is the idea of God's divine being spraying out, right? Lactating out. Right? Ejaculating out, right? The language is always mixed in the Zohar. We'll talk about jet time, right? But it's a tiny jet that you can't detect, and yet it fills all of being. So God is always beyond all being, and yet fills all being. It's a very important concept on the Zohar, right? Crowns nested upon each other like Russian dolls are the divine body itself. And the way the Sephirot relate, you can think of them as flowing from one another, right? You can also think of them as nesting upon each other like Russian dolls. So again, it always depends. The Zohar is always moving around about how it wants to depict itself. And I know that you want me to be showing an image, a visual image of the tree of life on the screen. I'm not going to do it yet because part of what I want to do is show you that that image is not trustworthy. In fact, if we go back a couple of slides, that's one of the earliest depictions of the Sephirot in history, right? It's not the tree of life. It's the nested doll version, right? With Keter, right? Flowing all the way down to Malchut at the bottom, or the center, right? At the bottom, the center. Because again, no up, no down, no left, no right, no beginning, no end. This is God, right? So I know the image you've seen, right, is probably that image, right? That's the image that most people have seen. Something like this image, right? Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, and it flows like this. This is an earlier image, just as representative of the Sephirot as this one. This is the more famous one. I think that one's just as valid, right? With Keter, right, being here. Notice Keter is at the top, right? Malchut is at the bottom. Here, Keter is on the outside, but Malchut's in the middle. Notice how that totally changes how we think about the relationship between these aspects of God. And again, both of these are completely accurate when we think about the structure of the divine and the sacred and so forth. Now, just to begin to wrap up, we're a little over. You can imagine the Zohar is something like a drama, not like a soap opera, actually, right? One Life to Live, or I don't know. whatever soap opera you like, right? Dark Shadows, that's my favorite soap opera. Barnabas Collins is a jam. So you can think about the Zohar as a kind of soap opera. And still, I can now hear the Dark Shadows song in my mind. So anyway, you can think of the Zohar as a kind of soap opera of these sphirot. It's all about how the various aspects of the divine relate to each other, hurt each other, double cross each other, how they move, how they dance, how they love, how they fight, how they interact with the harmony, how they excite, how they stimulate each other, how they seduce and betray one another. The Zohar is the drama of the Sefirot. And also, the goal of the Zohar is how to harmonize them. Right? Now, I know that no good soap opera wants a harmony because that's drama-free. But what the Zohar imagines is that at the end of this process, the Sefirot will be harmonized. They will be harmonized, and I bet you even heard, right? In those days, God's name will be one, right? Right? That God's name will be one and God will be one. That's a Kabbalistic idea, because the idea is that in the end of time, God's name will be unified, and God's self, will be unified. Now, what's interesting about that is that God is not unified yet. God's name is not unified yet. And how does God get unified? That might give us a clue about why Ein Sof ever erupted from Ein Sof at all. It's because God needs us. That we are part of the divine drama. And what part do we play in the divine drama? We are God's wife. Right? We are the wife of God. Israel is the wife of God. And many parts of the Zohar are about this amalgamation of the male and the female, this trans movement of maleness and femaleness, in which those two things unite themselves in an androgyne being. And that androgyne being is us and God. And how do we do that? Well, the Zohar is very conservative. The answer is you scrupulously follow Jewish law. Right? Don't expect some hippie-dippy stuff here, folks. Don't go on down the road and we're going to smoke reefer and free love and do some drugs and trip out and have fun. No. The Zohar is scrupulous about Jewish law. You unite God. You bring together God. You reunify yourself spiritually, and then you reunify God by following Jewish law scrupulously. And not just scrupulously, but the most irrational, strange laws in the Hebrew Bible are, for the Zohar, the single most important. Tefillin, right? You gotta attach boxes to your arm and your head. Yeah. Why? Doesn't matter. There's no logical reason. And it's precisely because there's no logical reason that the illogic of it actually makes it mystically transcendent. And therefore, Tefillin becomes an incredibly important part of mystical Judaism. For folks also doing Shabbat, the observance of Shabbat becomes also incredibly important. And if you've ever seen Chabadniks, I don't know if everyone's ever met some Chabadniks on the street, right, where they want the guys to light Tefillin and give the women Shabbat candles. Well, because they're Kabbalist. Because they think that by putting on those tefillin on you, by getting a woman to light Shabbat candles, because all the things, if you do that, you're unifying God and you're bringing the world closer to redemption. So don't expect Jewish mysticism to be liberal, hippy-dippy, you can do what you want. It's actually the exact opposite of that. It's radically conservative, which, by the way, should not surprise anyone here who's understood anything about mysticism in the Middle Ages. Every mystic in the Middle Ages is radically conservative. Christian, Muslim, Jewish, they're all incredibly socially conservative. In the Christian world, there were no more enthusiastic people about the Inquisition and the Crusades than Christian mystics. They were all about it. So this is not surprising if you look at the other mystics in their neighborhood. Now, what I want to pick up with next week is I want to pick up with a very short explanation of the Sefirot, right? Because tonight I just want to bring that there's a configuration that you need to and the Chokhmah and being blah 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 blah. No, yes, I don't show it. We'll get to it next week because I want to drive home is in the Zohar, the emanations of God are dynamic. They are a soap opera. And soap operas only work because they're dynamic. Because characters are falling in love, double crossing, getting angry, getting jealous, getting freaked out, making out with whatever. So think about God as the God's interiority of the soap opera, and the Jewish law is organized around balancing that out. That's the best way of thinking about it at this point. We'll talk about those distinctions next time, but imagine God's life as God is a soap opera, and you doing Jewish law is harmonizing it. That's the best way to think about the way the Zohar actually frames it. Let's not make the Zohar say something it doesn't, because it does not imagine a steady structure of these divine things. I put a cheat sheet up, right? A cheat sheet about the Sefirot. We're going to go through them next time, right? We're going to go through all the Sefirot next time. I'll talk a little bit about each one of them, but again, on drive home, we're going to go through them next time. But at this point, what I really want you to use the metaphor of is this is a soap opera, not a structure. Because if you imagine it as a structure, you get the Zohar wrong. It's a soap opera. Furthermore, we are not done yet, folks. If you think this is the entire Zohar, you are way off kilter. We still have to deal with Shekhinah, right? That is to say, we have to deal with God's feminine aspect, the feminine reality of God, and the queering of God that goes on in the Sefer Zohar. The fact that God is not he or she or even they. God is all of those and beyond those. We have to deal with the question of the mitzvot, which we've already touched on a little bit tonight. How does the Jewish law relate to the Sefer Zohar? Obviously, another thing that's very important about the Sefer Zohar is its attention to evil. Evil is very important to the Zohar. And in fact, they imagine that the Sefirot, right, the positive attributions of God, have an inverse version of it, a bizarro version, a backwards version, an inverted version, a negative image. And that negative image is called the Sitra, Achra, the other side. And that negative image of God is the realm of the demonic. And so we're going to talk about Jewish demonology and the world way in which the negative image of God is that world of the demonic. And of course, let's talk about how this text got received. This is one of the strangest texts in all of Jewish history. How did this text get received? And I think more importantly, how did it become canon? How did it become Jewish scripture? It is. But also how in the progressive world did it cease to be scripture? Why is it that you never learned Zohar? Why is it that in your camp or in your shul or in your temple you would learn prophets, you would learn Torah, you might learn some Talmud, never learn Zohar? How did it get decanonized? We always wonder about how texts don't get canonized. The Zohar made it through the ringer. It got canonized. How did it lose that status among progressive Jews? And why should we claim it back? So we're going to deal with those issues next time, because I think it's very important about how this text got canonized and then lost it among progressive Jews, who I think would benefit from it the most. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me as I explain. Comedy Store for a brand new episode of Kill Tony Volume 3. Give it up for Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yes, it's true. Look at the energy up in the upper deck. I like that. Comedians that are here every week. Hello, hi, happy Monday to you all. You guys ready for a crazy night or what? Yeah, you are, because you always are. We always have fun here. You guys like big, giant, exclusive, right now announcements? Here's a big one for you guys. Well, we're going to Nashville May 22nd. That's a big deal. We're at the Wild West Comedy Fest. But here's what's really exciting. You ready for this? Is Kill Tony, in the month of May, is moving to its new home, the Comedy Store main room, ladies and gentlemen. 400 seats of insanity. Yeah, that's a big announcement. June will be year 3 of Kill Tony, and we're going to be having that in the main room, because the show's going to be in the main room from now on, and we are in negotiations for a special all-comedian section that gets discounted comedian rate drinks. What the fuck? Is real? Is that true that a show that fights for the comedians' rights could get them something like that? That's unbelievable. Seems like a really cool show that does something like that.
You should just get a cake for the contest. Catered.
All right, I don't know about that, Brian. I'm pretty sure they're going to keep us in the belly room if we try that. Put your hands together for your house artist, Ryan J. Ebel, ladies and gentlemen. He draws every single episode. He drew the brand new Kill Tony poster, limited edition, that's for sale after the show and online. RyanJAbel.com. Jamie Vernon on the HD camera, and keep it going for Pat Reagan, ladies and gentlemen. He's the band. He's the entire fucking band for this show. Pat Reagan is in the house. Who do you got with you there, Pat?
Well, Tony, I guess I'll let, this is Adam, I guess I'll let him explain.
Oh, okay.
My name is Adam, all
Yep.
Esquire. I'm Mr. Reagan's attorney.
Oh. PR. Like this. Feel like
Have fun as well.
attorneys have fun as well. I like that. What's in your other hand? What's in that left hand? Oh, I see. Fuck yeah. That's how you know you have a good lawyer. I always give him the good old harmonica test. Well, welcome to the show, Adam. Pat's a lawyer. Oh, you're welcome.
I've been doing a lot of speaking for Pat. He's undergone some joke theft recently, and I don't want him saying anything incriminating. I don't want him to lose any intellectual or creative property here on the stage tonight.
Whoa, I don't know anything about this. Pat, are you allowed to speak on this, or does Adam have to?
No comment, Tony.
Whoa, this is interesting. Adam, are you going to speak of this?
No comment.
Oh, this is a really drawn-out improv scene that nobody told me about. Okie dokie, Pat. You really just shooting from the hip tonight. Guys, every single week we have a bunch of comedians sign up to do 60 seconds on the stage, and we always have some of the best comedians and some of our funniest friends on the show to talk to those comedians, and they're on a podcast all with us right now live. Put your hands together for 3 of the best. Andrew Themelize, Dom Irera, and Bill Burr. Fuck yeah. Here we go. Hi, Holy shit. You would get crazy up here on Monday nights.
Which one's mine? So, Bill, are you still doing stand-up?
I got a real estate license. I got some billboards up there selling condos.
Good for you.
Welcome to the show, Dom. Been
God
on it
bless
a
you.
couple times. Andrew, welcome. Andrew, thank you.
They should two of these mics up.
You said 3 of the best. Let's just be fucking honest at the start. 2 of the best and a consolation prize, all right?
Consolation.
I didn't even drive here. I don't even have an excuse. That's why we put you in the middle.
Hey, put you in the middle. We got you tonight.
It's a podcast.
Go off the way,
It's a
we'll
Monday
fucking
morning
say
podcast field trip. Put you in. Act like you're one of us, even though you're really not. Sure. Yeah. I'm the kid you let shoot the last basket because I tried for a while.
That's right.
Hey, you're better than Pat. If I show up without a guitar, I'm already better than Pat.
Pat says hi, Dom.
I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
I'm just joking, Pat. You're very good.
People have really taken a non-liking to Pat Reagan. It has become a regular thing on the show where every guest makes fun of Pat relentlessly, to the point to where now he has a lawyer that he speaks through.
We don't believe that's true, any of that.
I love it. So welcome to the show, guys. This is going to be a blast. Every week, comedians sign up and then we talk to them about anything at all. Maybe we add something that they could talk about. Maybe we find out more about their lives. Anything can happen. They do 60 seconds. Comedians, you know your 60 seconds is up when you hear the sound of a kitty. There it is. That means wrap it up then, or else you're going to bring out the angry West Hollywood bear. There we go. That's what happens when you run your time. Bear. So don't do that, everybody.
You're acting weird today.
Am I missing something?
No, I think you're just acting weird.
Oh, okay, fine.
Acting eccentric.
You're acting great, Tony.
Thank you, Pat Floyd. Thank you, Ron. You guys are doing a great job, everybody. Let's start the show. Are you guys ready or what?
You ready to rock?
Did you hear me at all?
About what?
I was just shitting all over you. You can't even hear me. Now you can hear me, right?
No. Yeah,
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay.
What did I do?
I just said you weren't acting weird. You're acting very, eccentric.
Yeah.
You just seem like those trust fund kids that, just get like an easel and just paint landscapes their whole fucking life.
Speaking of easels and painting,
Now you have to communicate with people. It's a little weird.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Tony, can I say
Keeping this thing on its helm is quite the...
You do a great job, man. Can I just say one thing before the show starts? Yeah. These 2 women are so beautiful. Sitting in the front, I gotta say, I know one of you is obviously hotter than the other, but would she mind taking a bow? The hot one.
Wow, she actually did it. Wow, what a terrible human being.
Unbelievable. That will haunt their friendship. That'll come out like 20 fucking years.
Remember the fucking bell?
Like in 2016 when you bowed. How do you know he wasn't talking about me?
Let's start the
I
show.
had fringe on my jacket.
We're gonna watch 60 seconds of uninterrupted comedy. Are you fuckers ready for this? All right, first comedian performing tonight goes by the name of Jesse Rothenberg.
Doing a great job, Pat.
Thank you.
You think you could do me a favor for this joke? It's just part of the joke. If you could, stand up and salute me real quick. Just do it. Okay. Oh, thanks so much. That was really nice of him. It's also why I think Donald Trump might become president. Just compliment someone, text of a joke, and an idiot will make a fool of himself. Sorry. I'm trying to go out west now.
Wow, it's a really casual set for you. So, okay, that was 47 seconds when you asked, but it's 1 minute now. And let's just put an end to this, shall we?
Thank you.
That was an interesting way to get to that Trump thing. You made Pat do that whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
How did
but didn't you kind of fuck him with the music on the way up? You know, like, he's gonna suck. It's like, can you give him a chance? That doesn't happen to any.
we
fucked you before you got up here, man. You get a mulligan on that one.
It's interesting. We do that so they know when the actual timer starts. You know, so it's not like a fade. I didn't notice it at all.
Okay.
It didn't throw him off. It was going to be that bad no matter what music played him up. He could have had.
I tried, man. I tried to get you another swing.
You did 47 seconds, but with the laughs, it was.
What's your story, Jesse? Where are you from?
Philadelphia originally.
What up, Mr. Aquarius? How you living, girl?
I'm good. I've been resting all day, been chilling all day.
That's great. Are you ready for me?
Yeah, can we pray? Let's pray.
You got it.
Look at Brandon. Did Brandon freeze? Yes, he did.
I think so.
That's a cute picture.
Yeah, he's just chilling there. And J-Ski's been in. J-Ski's out and about.
Yeah, I missed him, huh? I'm sorry.
I saw J-Ski's face for the first time.
You did?
Yeah.
It's okay. I get to see him one day.
Oh, you've never seen him?
I don't think so.
He's a good-looking dude. Reminds me of myself. All right, here we go, Miss Aquarius. All right.
And they was waiting on me, Rabbi. I know. And they was like, where's the trash hosting? Okay. I'm just been resting.
Yeah, I
Trying to
figured that.
recover. That's all. Recovering from last weekend.
Exactly. Miss Aquarius, you had such a wild weekend. Oh, no. With
Oh, no. That's a different.
you had hibachi on Thursday. You had the group bachelorette party. Then you had the bridal party on Saturday. The wedding on Sunday.
Yeah.
That was really. I know the wedding was like one day, but it was really like 3 or 4 days for you.
Yeah, it was a whole weekend. Yeah. Yeah, that's whole wedding weekend. We had to get ready for it. We had to get the hair done and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, oh, strike. Phenomenal job.
Thank you, madam.
So how was your day?
Riser had me up really late, and so I slept very late, and I don't like doing that because my hours get all messed up. But we had a really good time. We played Scrabble like all night. Get it? Oh man. And that's fun. And then we I got an email that somebody wants me to be on their podcast, which is cool. And then I've got a new one. And then I got another podcast tomorrow at 10 a.m. that I have to do, which will be cool. It's the second of third of 3. And then I have a another podcast on Monday that I'm doing, and that's the 5th and final one that I'm doing with somebody. And I like doing them with him. He's a really nice guy, and we talk about cool stuff. But they're only 20 minutes long, so it's like a big build-up, and then 20 minutes, and then it's done. So that is good and bad. And then this one, we're going to talk about like basically the search for extraterrestrial life, which is kind of a cool subject. And then I'll schedule, hopefully, the podcast throughout the week. Nice spare. So, get it, girl. I thought this was funny. I was looking at what people were saying about me on
Let's
the.
go. Let's go. Rabbi.
I was looking at what people were saying about me on the internet, and oh no, this is a tough one. And I noticed. Oh, I need just get one. Oh, and I got the spare. What a spare! What a what a spare! Wow, that gets the win. You win, I win, I
Yeah,
win,
you get the
win.
win. You win, I win.
That was unexpected.
Oh,
One of the best
yeah.
of my life. So, I saw a picture of like my Instagram or my TikTok account, and somebody had posted on Reddit under Internet Mysteries. Does anyone know anything about this TikTok account? They literally post every 5 minutes, and they have thousands of posts. And all these people were like doing research on me, and then somebody was like, "Oh yeah, I know that. That's Rabbi Rothschild. They stream their life or whatever." Nice spare. And
Thank you.
I thought it was funny that the person was like, "They're always on my front page," but I look into their account and I don't. It's literally every 5 minutes, and that's because I created a bot that does that. But I thought that was funny that somebody had done that, and then I built another bot. I'm really into mega projects, Miss Aquarius, like building a tunnel between. Oh, nice spare. Between Alaska and Russia. I think. Look, I'm about feeding the homeless and clothing the naked and getting thirsty people water. All that's really important. Like I'm about that first. But I'm also about like uniting the world. And ways that you can do that is through mega projects many times because it builds diplomacy and it builds uh, like economic gives people economic opportunities. And so I created a robot that is it can write on anything that I want and it publishes. And so this one it was doing stuff on supercomputers and now it's doing stuff on mega projects. So like um I really want to help Africa. I feel that Africa as a continent has just been gotten the short end of the stick for the last countless centuries. And so I want to like I'm an advocate for building like rail lines there to help people to be able to travel faster and like to help green the desert where people can live and not have to be so hot and really like malaria tents and malaria nets I should say and building of wells like all that stuff's really important to me and so it's writing on those kinds of things and then there's another one like another idea that I think is really cool which is bridging what's called the Darien Gap which is between North America and South America and if they or it's clearing the Darien Gap basically if we cleared like 100 miles of rainforest you'd be able to from the very tip of Argentina basically to the very tip of Alaska but you can't because it's like really treacherous there. And so, in an environmentally friendly way to connect that. So that bot's doing that, and then I've got another bot that is just creating blogs for me. Yay! You win, I win, I win, you win. Undefeated in bowling, undefeated in friendship. Exactly. So that's what I've got going, and aside from that, I'm just chilling. How about you? You said you were resting.
Just relaxing. I'm gonna get up and change my sheets in the morning and stuff like that. Just been really just recovering, relaxing, for this weekend. It was supposed to rain, didn't really do nothing. It might be they had a little cold front because it was cold this morning. So yeah, I'm just been trying to just get my, body back and stuff like that. It's been just resting. That's all. So I gotta go get this stuff out my hair. Monday we go to the hairdresser, so I gotta get the stuff out my head. So I'm ready to get it out.
How long has it been in there?
It's been in for a week, but it's up today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just a piece of track in my hair. That's all. Like she just put the. Well, you didn't even see my hair, huh?
No.
So I got a ponytail. Look, right. So I got a ponytail. Let me show you a picture.
I see.
I got a picture. I got a ponytail or whatever. We had a piece of, and then this is like very not curved, but I got a piece up here, which got to put a track in my head. I'm ready to get that out.
Okay.
So this is, let's see. This is me with my dress on, as you can tell. I can't tell it out. Did I make it? I don't think I got it. Yes, I did. Okay, you can see a little bit of it. So, hold on, I can do it better. Whoop. Oh my God, you would do that, iPad. You would when I'm trying to do something. Okay, so it's just me.
Oh, you look so beautiful, and I love your earrings.
Thank you. Yep, that's how it was.
Wow.
So now it's like this now. So I'm going to still hold that though. Still held up a little bit, but it's just, I put the piece on when I was at work, and once it had me roll it up, I couldn't see it, but I didn't know. So, hey, I got it. It held this one.
That's good. That's a long time.
Yep. Well, the dermatologist said I can have it. Just can't have it on too long. So I guess a week is not that bad. It's been a week today.
Okay. Yeah.
We're gonna get it out, man. I had it for a week. So.
Are you going to your cousin's?
Yeah, my cousin's gonna do it. She did it, so she's gonna take it out.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's been a week, so it shouldn't be too much.
Right.
If you don't have it for 2 weeks, that'll be a problem. So I let my dermatologist know. Because I gotta put this stuff in my hair and then put it in my hair. So I let her know I'm gonna have it. She said I'm gonna have it on too long. It's loose. So I asked her, it's a week, okay? But I had it on for a week. I had it in for a week. It's not too tight. Ponytail not too tight. It's loose. Because she told me to have it loose. So it's getting better. It's not too bad. It's a week.
All right.
That ain't too long, is it, Rabbi?
No, ma'am.
2 weeks, right?
No, ma'am. And you did what your dermatologist said. Don't have it in too long, so you're good.
Right. So it's not too long. Just turned the week 8.
That's right.
Remember, we got our hair done last Saturday.
Yep. Just a touch up.
Today is a week, so it's not too long. That's not too bad, right?
I don't think so.
JSP, I heard.
There he is. He's been doing that. He's out and about, so I don't know if he's got bad connectivity or something, but
Yeah. So it's just been a week, so that's right, Rabbi? As long as it's not 2 weeks, that is a problem.
yeah, you're good. You're gonna have it in a total of 8 days. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Today was the week, so Monday I get it out. Thank you, to get it out.
Does it hurt?
No, it don't hurt. It just itches. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the ponytail is in my answer, so I took that out. I wasn't speaking with that. But it still looks good because I tied it up, so good. So I got to just take it out. I should have been curly, but it's okay. I rolled it up, then it holds the curve. So I'm not worried about getting it out Monday. Can't wait.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, I want to do when I come back. But I'm here, okay? I'm going to go pick it from YouTube.
Yes, ma'am.
And
J Ski. What up, big dog? Mr. Chris and I were just talking about you, that you're out and about. How you living, big man? There she is.
Yeah. I just seen you. JC.
There you go.
So I'm messing up. I'm speaking.
JC.
All right. Oh, hey, first.
Hey. The first time I see you, I heard you show your face.
Oh yeah, I was actually outside a lot today. Yeah, I'm just checking my mail. I just got home today.
Oh, I'm sorry. You should have messaged me. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I'm just have to message you. Yeah, I came in late, so I forgot to I cleaned my sleep sounds a bit late.
Yeah, I was in here when I did. You gotta start messaging me or something. Call me or something on here. So I know.
Yeah,
Looking at YouTube and stuff like that. I was resting. I told them I had to rest had to recover for the weekend. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna message you next time. But I'll let you know today when I'm streaming. But yeah, I'm home now, so that's cool.
That's good. Glad you're home. Okay. Uh-oh. He's coming back on his computer.
Right. It's a pain.
At least I got to see him real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
You gotta let me know. Lord. Let me know when you do stuff like that so you can see it. Wrong with him. Call me or something. Rabbi, you can call me, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I don't know what his schedule is, and I'm doing my own thing, so it's kind of unexpected.
Oh, yeah, you don't know yet, so never mind.
No, it's fine. If I have the opportunity, I know he's going to be here for a while doing something, then absolutely.
Right.
But he was in and out, so I didn't really know.
Right. And he was saying he was gonna hit me up when he be out, but I know it's a late thing. So.
Yeah, I figured you were. I noticed you were deaf, and so I figured you were still asleep. But
yeah, I was chilling. I was relaxing.
Yeah, I was in the Hollywood area today, even though I'm in Hollywood. But I think tomorrow when I go to the gym again, I'll probably either tomorrow or Monday I'll DM you. Around this time and let you know, so I could just show you, I guess, a walk of fame, all the stars and shit on the ground.
Okay. Sound good.
I wanted to go to the movies today, but
what did you want to see, J-Ski?
The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Look at you.
Really went to the movie?
I mean, another reason why I wanted to see it because I wanted to see it also from my mom because I still have the DVD in storage because she had got it, and then I later watched it and I was like, this is alright, this is a pretty decent movie. So that I want to see, and then next week I want to see I'm gonna go see Mortal Kombat.
All right. What about Michael?
Michael, you know what? I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a huge Michael fan, but I will see that because I haven't been in the movie theaters in a while.
I might go there and see.
Yeah, people have been telling me to check it out. They said it's very controversial when in regards to his dad, I guess, because I heard his dad used to pressure him and his brothers really, really crazy.
Absolutely.
I have a friend. She was telling me she went to California. I told her I had to be in a wedding, so I didn't want to get to see it or whatever. And I wasn't on my Instagram and all like that. So she said she was in LA because her son was premiered in the Michael Jackson. Her son was Marlon.
No way, that's a big role.
Yeah.
So your friend's son.
He was Marlon in the movie.
Your friend's son was Marlon Jackson, in the Michael Jackson movie.
Huh?
Your friend's son was Marlon in the Michael Jackson movie Michael.
Michael Jackson movie, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh damn.
Yeah, that's what she told me. She was in California and he was modeling in the I said, well, okay. She said, I don't know if you was on Instagram. I had put some stories. I said, no, I was on Instagram. I wasn't on nothing, baby. I was busy, totally focused on this my best friend's wedding. No. I can't wait to see it. Yeah. Yeah. Jessica, you back? I know you're tired.
Actually, I'm not too tired because I woke up late. I woke up around 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was walking.
I need to get. It's hot, but last year I used to walk. I would be up like 8, like coffee shop, the gym, laptop. I was more productive that way, but that was really good for my legs. So I want to do that, but I think this year I will probably do it like half, a little bit less. But no, that's good for me. I need the cardio.
Okay, that's good.
I wanted to go to the movies today, but I know for sure. Oh shit, I forgot Tuesday's a holiday.
I thought you was going to the movies. You said you want to go see something, right?
Yeah. But here the funny part is, yesterday I was gonna go late at night. I was gonna take a Waymo there, but tickets. I'm glad I checked online. Normally I don't check online. All of the seats are taken, and it's the theater. I normally go to the theater in South LA, but this one is in downtown LA. They have like better reclining seats, and then they have 4DX. But all the tickets were seats were taken, and I don't mind that. But my experience is like sometimes it's like too many people bunched up, and that's the type of movie I just want to see by myself, or not too many people in there and just enjoy myself. But when it comes to Mortal Kombat, I'm seeing that when it first comes out. I don't care about. There's certain movies I would like this. I want to see just to enjoy myself and not have the movie theater too packed. And then there's like the major action / adventure films like DC or Marvel movies or Star Wars. I don't mind being in a packed theater because it's just much more enjoyable. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you had a good day. Yeah, sorry, because my thing had cut off. And then yours was on. And I was like, okay, I just go and listen to his.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, my thing cut off, or if my iPad goes dead, I'll cut off. And then when I see you, I just cut yours on.
Yeah. I was surprised Jack in the Box their iced matcha drink. I know it probably has some sugar in it because it's not like pure matcha, but it actually tastes good.
Yeah, you got Jack in the Box, so we don't have that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love their tacos. I mean, it's not the best, but Jack in the Box.
We don't have Jack in the Box here.
Oh yeah, you're in the South, right?
Yeah, we don't have that here.
Yeah, they've closed way too many stores.
I remember we had Mighty Casey's. I miss Mighty Casey's. It's something like that. I miss Mighty Casey's here. Yeah. Did y'all hear about Spirit Airlines?
Oh yeah, Spirit Airlines. Is the whole thing closing down? Or?
I think they already closed down, didn't they?
Yep, 17,000 people out of work.
Yeah, go on Spirit.com. It's gonna tell you. Yeah, I went on it.
It's just for the flight. Or like the entire company?
Everything, dog. Whole
yeah, I see it shuts down. Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's on Spirit. Go to Spirit.
Yeah, I see it on the news now.
Yep, so Spirit is winding down operations. Yep. It said, tell the guests that spirit guests should not go to the airport for more information regarding your refund status and next steps. Please visit our guest page. Yep. Announcement. It is with great disappointment that on May 2nd, 2026, Spirit Airlines started an orderly wind down of our operations effective immediately. To our guests, our flights have been canceled and customer service is no longer available. We are proud of the impact of our ultra low-cost model on the industry over the last 33 years and had hoped to serve our guests for many years to come. That's crazy. Where is this thing? There's more. That's crazy. That's sad.
Just makes traveling. It makes traveling more expensive because there's less competition, and they were like the lowest people.
But they said they asked Trump, to give him 7.5 billion or something like that, and he would never give it to him. So they've been trying to, for what, a few years? Oh, yeah. That's crazy. Yep. JC, what you about to do? Ride down?
Yeah, probably watch some movies. I might do some online gaming. Actually, no. I'm gonna just watch a show and then I gotta finish what I was working on my laptop. I was working on my dating app.
Your dating app?
Yeah, I'm making a AI companion dating app because there's a few AI dating apps, and some of like the functionality of the site. I'm kind of close to finishing, so.
You're making a dating app?
Yeah, and
Dating a robot?
Yeah, an AI companion. Yeah, you have people. Some sites already where people actually pay. They did a documentary where people are actually paying subscription fee, and I have to.
For AI, not for real people. They're doing it with an AI.
Yeah, and I have to connect my Stripe API key so I can accept payments. But there's people doing this, and it's in the next 10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if actual humans are dating an AI, synthetic AI robot that can walk. They already have some that are walking, holding clothes for people and other stuff. It's just expensive, but I've asked a couple of friends I have added on Discord, like some people who's with my other service, and they said some of these ladies said, and they're in their 20s, like they're like. I've asked some people in their 20s and 30s, and they said they wouldn't mind dating a synthetic AI robot. So yeah, the future is changing. I don't know if you've seen this TV series, Rabbi. What is it called? Humans. It takes place in the UK. It's like about synthetic robots becoming self-aware or whatever. But that series was literally 10 years ago. But I torrented it. I torrented all the seasons, so I've been binge watching it. And I remember when I first seen it. That was 2026, and this is somewhat in the reality. So it's crazy. It's really crazy. But yeah, most people are on the phone nowadays having a relationship. So I mean, it doesn't sound too crazy. Like I'm not surprised some people are actually signing up for these apps.
That's wild. But it becomes big business.
Yeah, definitely become big. And there's gonna be, once these like AI robots come out, it's gonna disrupt a lot of things. I am curious if the government's going to do probably nationwide, well, worldwide, if they're going to do UBI or something. Because if they don't, and they just let AI and synthetic robots take people's jobs, it's
Word, dog.
it really is. What do you have planned today? Yeah. What do you have planned today, Miss Aquarius?
I've been from last week, so I had a busy weekend. I don't understand when you're in a wedding, you just yeah.
I noticed I haven't seen too much.